I'm joined here with Rob McLeod from Nations Royalty at the Beaver Creek Precious Metal Summit. Rob, thanks for joining us.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me. I heard that you had a wonderful trip up to the Golden Triangle. Saw a little bit of the footage, and awesome for you to be able to see an area around my home and one of the most spectacular areas and mineral-rich areas of the world.
The part that I found so interesting is because you're up in the mountains. There's not a lot of people, and then you've got these glaciers that are melting, and it just creates waterfalls everywhere. But if you just had one of those waterfalls, like where there's people, it would be like a huge tourist trap. And here, there's like you see them all over the place up there.
Yeah, it's a very spectacular part of the world, and it sounds like you flew over the third largest ice field in the world. And in fact, up in that part of the world, we use glaciers as transportation. There's an ice road that goes up to Bruce Jack, and that's how people get up and down and all the equipment. So it's not the easiest place to work in the world, but we make it happen.
So, Rob, here we are at a precious metals conference. Something I love to ask people is, what's the buzz? What's the sentiment? What are people talking about in the conversations you're in, just going around chatting with people?
Why haven't the stocks moved? Gold's 2,500. There's bullish sentiment for critical minerals. There's even some M&A activity. Why haven't they moved yet? That's actually, it's honestly one of the biggest questions that's out there. I'm not sure. I've been through lots of cycles in my 30-year plus career, and usually things move when you least expect it, and the triggers for the movement are often not what you had originally anticipated. But this table is unquestionably set for finally a move in the juniors to mid-tiers.
You think if you and I are sitting down here at this exact spot next year, that we will have seen some sort of a move?
I think that we will be saying, why didn't we buy more stock in these things?
Well, let's cue that up for in the future, editing staff, so that we can go back when we do this in 1 year and show the clip.
That might have been my answer last year as well, too. So one of these years will be right.
So I know we recently had both you and Derek on, but there's going to be people that are watching our sort of series here at Beaver Creek, and they're going to say, what's Nations Royalty? So quickly, if you could just give us a quick 60-second high-level overview of the company for our audience.
Sure. So the royalty space, mining royalty, particularly precious metals, have always been the crown jewel of the whole mining industry. Two of the three largest companies in Canada are mining companies. They're royalty companies. They're Silver Wheaton and Franco-Nevada. And it's been so successful. There's been quite a few startups, but it's a saturated market. There are very few royalties available. When a good one becomes available, it's snapped up by the big three, Franco, Wheaton, and Royal Gold. Our vision is different. It is the last untapped pool of royalties out there, and those are indigenous royalties. The founding nation they're the Nisga'a Nation from the Golden Triangle. The company has 5 royalties that were Nisga'a owned that they vended in for shares in the company, including Bruce Jack, KSM, Red Mountain, Premier, and Kitsault. Nice balance between critical minerals and gold. Our vision is that Indigenous people across Canada and around the world will vend their royalties in to this company to diversify the royalty holdings and participate in the upside for a very well-endowed country for minerals, which is Canada. And there's hundreds of opportunities. And since we're Indigenous owned, and with honestly the exception of me, Indigenous led, is that we see the path to being a top 5 global royalty company.
So your top asset, I think by dollar value, is clearly the KSM asset.
Yes, it is.
What's the timeline of production here?
So KSM is the largest fully permitted copper gold deposit in the world, and it's owned by Seabridge. Seabridge have made it clear that they're not developing it themselves. This is a multi-billion dollar build. They recently received their permits that basically locks in their permits in perpetuity, And their CEO, Rudy Frank, has said that he's in negotiations with 6 different companies to, it's either going to be a company sale of Seabridge or a joint venture on the asset. We hope that there will be an agreement announced soon, and that is going to be a major, major catalyst just for the existing portfolio of Nations Royalty.
Okay, let's talk about another one of your assets. Last week, Ascot announced that they're going to put the Premier mine into care and maintenance.
Right.
How does this impact your financial models?
So it's a hit for sure. What we have heard from the company, and both Nishka and I'm from Stewart, so we hear what they're planning. They figure that they can get back on track with another 6 months worth of underground development so they can properly fill that mill. So we are optimistic that that will happen, and it will kind of kick back the serious cash flow that that royalty was supposed to generate maybe 9 months to 1 year down the road. So, but there's over 5 million ounces of gold in multiple deposits there, and so we are still very confident that those assets are going to see revenue, just not in 2024.
Okay, insiders such as yourself and Chief Investment Officer Derek Pattenton have been in the market buying. Is this a trend we can expect to continue?
Certainly at these levels. I believe that this is going to be the most important and the best thing that I've ever been involved with in my career. And we are not going to see these levels again. The valuation just on Nishka's portfolio alone is we are extensively undervalued. And so I'll take as much stock as I can get at these levels. Same with Derek. And then we have lots of allies of the company within the Fiore group that have also been supporting in the market here. One of our challenges is we're not the most liquid stock in the world. Both insiders such as myself and certainly Nishka, who owns 77% of the company, we're all locked up for 3 years. And so there's very little float in this company. So it could also swing the other way pretty quickly as well, too.
So we last spoke in early August in Vancouver, and you indicated that you guys had lots of ongoing discussions. Are there any updates you can give us?
So we cannot, aside from that, the discussions with more and more Indigenous groups across the country continue to advance. Derek Pattenton, Vice President of Corporate Development, Cody Penner, they spent last week in Ontario, in the Abitibi Belt, and working with First Nations, including we are acting as a financial advisor to one on primarily on gold assets. That's our priority, is to get top line gold royalties. And we are helping Indigenous groups to make sure that they get their fair share. How it used to be done is mining companies would go, here, we'll give you a straight cash payment every year, and maybe it grows at 2% for inflation. So a lot of Indigenous groups are not participating in the upside for the price of gold and other commodities. And so we're making sure that Indigenous groups, they're not going to be ridiculous in terms of what they ask for, but just make sure that they get what's fair. And so we're recommending, if you're negotiating a royalty with a mining company, get a top line royalty, and rather than a net profit interest cash payment. It's Indigenous groups and communities that have the downside risk for these mines. So we're still optimistic that we're going to have some deals to announce by the end of the year, but certainly we think 2025, because Indigenous groups don't go as quickly as, say, you and I would. And relationships are important, chief to chief meetings are important, and but we've got 55 active files right now.
Okay, well, Rob, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down here and do this, and I look forward to doing this again in a year's time when we can talk about how we've seen all that capital flow into equities and how you've got a whole bunch of deals you've done in the previous 12 months that we can now talk about.
I can't wait for that day to happen in a year or two. So, all right, great to see you again.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay.